Eartha Kitt. If he likes the show, he'll buy it, Victor Kiam. Choreographer, Bill T. Jones, and comedian, Leah Krinsky. And now, the star of Politically Incorrect, Bill Maher.
Well, thank you very much. Now, the big news is international. There was a meeting at the White House yesterday about the Middle East. Did not go too well. President Clinton met with Netanyahu of Israel, and Netanyahu then had a press conference and actually mocked everybody, including the Arabs, because, you know, they've been trying to build these housing settlements in Jerusalem. And Netanyahu said the Arabs were crazy and that they're the terrorism of the condominiums. See, they're putting up condominiums. The Arabs called it terrorism, and he mocked that. He said, you know, first of all, the difference between Mideast violence and condominiums is you might be able to get rid of Mideast violence. That's all right. Don't fake it. You didn't get it. Don't lie to me, folks. That was just for the real estate agents. Hard to get rid of a condominium. Anyway, President Clinton is doing a lot better himself with his injury. You know, he had that bad knee injury, and they say now he's coming back. He's on the mend. He's been doing some exercising, some stretching, some light weightlifting, and next week, if all goes well, he'll be able to do a little light influence peddling. So, it has not hurt his approval rating. His approval rating is still very high, 56%. That's very high for a president. Al Gore's, on the other hand, has plummeted. You know what his approval rating is? 25%. And Gore cannot figure it out. It's a mystery. But he said before he runs for president, he is going to go to a motel room and drop his pants. It just... Now, there's a big investigation going on now. This is interesting stuff. The FTC, which is the Federal Trade Commission, they are looking into whether the Miller Brewing Company and the Anheuser-Busch beer company tried to really, this is pretty rotten stuff, tried to influence kids watching MTV who are not of age to buy their liquor products. And they are furious. They said MTV should not be having commercials that promote drinking and partying. That is the job of the videos. And finally, boy, our own network here, ABC, makes a lot of news now. Of course, you know Ellen is coming out at the end of this month, and they are, well, they are having advertising issues here. Some of them, the advertisers are pulling out. Other advertisers, they are rejecting. And yesterday, they rejected one from a lesbian cruise line. Wanted to advertise on the show, and ABC said, no, that's a little over the top. And, you know, the lesbian cruise line, their marketing strategy is a little different. They promise you will go down with the ship. Thanks for coming. It's all been satirized for your protection. Alrighty, let's meet our panel. First, a renowned dancer, choreographer, and recipient of a MacArthur Genius Grant. Wow, I'll never get one of those. His memoirs are called Last Night on Earth. Bill T. Jones. Hey, nice to see you again. It's been too long. Thank you for coming. He is an author, inventor, entrepreneur, and he has a new line of travel products called Travel Smart. Victor Kiam. I bought the company.
Hello, Bill.
Hey,
glad to
good
see you
again. She is a comedian and Emmy Award-winning writer for Dennis Miller Live, Leah Krinsky. Oh, love your June.
Thanks.
Good to see you. Orson Welles called her the most exciting woman in the world. Her latest CD is back to business as she's the one and only Eartha Kitt. Catwoman, how are you, baby?
Hey.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
sir. Hello, babies.
All right.
Hello. Hello. of
All right,
babies.
Eartha. That's
God,
Eartha.
everybody's-
Very exciting stuff. But we do have to get to the issues, and there are some very important things that are going on in this country that need to be talked about, and we're going to talk about one of them. One of them is what's going on in Philadelphia. There is a guy there named Jack McMahon. He is a prosecutor, and he is running for district attorney, and his opponent released a tape he made several years ago that was a training tape for prosecutors where he was advising them how to pick a jury. And he said things like, the only way you're going to do your best is to get jurors that are unfair.
Well,
He
defense
also-
attorneys do that,
Yeah.
so...
He also said in selecting blacks, you don't want the real educated ones.
I resent that.
Yeah,
I
don't
really
blame
do.
you.
But I think, isn't that what they're doing already?
That's the point.
Choosing the kind of people that they want on the
Is-
jury, no
is-
matter what color they are.
Is he a racist or a realist?
But didn't I hear one of the lawyers say the one thing that you don't want them to know is the truth?
That's, I think, what he is saying there.
So what kind of game are they playing?
It's called the legal game.
Besides, anybody with a third-grade education is smart enough to get out of jury duty.
That's
Not anymore. In some cities, New York right now in the city, everybody could get out. Not anymore. You're going to have a very strong reason, and the
please.
tenure of the jury now, they're very tough. The judges will not let you out.
Well,
And
I got
if-
out of it. But, I mean, a lot of times in this country, if you say anything about race, if you just say black, if you just say blah, people go, ah! And really, this guy, in defense of him, if I may, he is really doing what every prosecutor has done for many years, which is point out how to win your case by picking the people who are going to be on your side. And he is saying, if you're trying a black man, if he's on trial, he's not going to get convicted if you pick people who have had a bad experience with law enforcement, and that is very often the black community. Now, is there anything wrong with that?
Well, but the defense attorney, Johnny Cochran did the exact flip of that. He said, just give me one black juror, and I will get O.J. Simpson off.
Right.
Not that he did anything.
Well, that's what I think is unfair, because if that's the kind of game you're going to play, then you'll never have anybody convicted fairly or otherwise. Do you think? Or do you think, Mr. Kayam?
Well,
Yes, sir. Yes.
I guess I'm on trial, but I'll be all right.
Every man I find, I
notice
put him
you-
on trial.
Do you really?
Exactly.
Oh, I'd love that.
I notice you, you quickly found the richest man on the panel.
God! Now, I knew there was a reason why this bed be next to this.
I think I've just gotten poorer. But anyway, I think what you've got here
Not
is...
until you give me a checkbook.
I think you've got sophistication. You've got sophistication with Miller Brewing and Anheuser-Busch, which you indicated earlier about MTV. And I think what's happened is we've so advanced that we have focus groups to determine what jurors, and we have
That's
a
really
whole
what it is.
system.
Yep.
And it's like doing research on ad copy when you do a commercial. You send it out and you get a review, and if it is no good, you don't run it. If it is, if it appeals, if it motivates, you run it. And it's now gotten to the jury system. I might say that in England, from which a jury system came, they don't have jury selection. I had a trial over there, and I said, when are we going to select the juror? And they said, the next 12 people. I said, so what if one is my brother, or one worked for the company that was on the other side?
What were you on trial for in England?
I sued the Sunday Times, the Times of London, for libel, and I won. They said something nasty about me, so be careful. Anyway, the first 12 people, because first of all, these 12 people are Englishmen, and Englishmen are true, and therefore relationships are secondary in the
Tell me about
evaluation.
You know what
That's their creed, anyway.
You know what I feel? I feel that it's true we want to make this a discussion about race, but it seems ultimately it's about a kind of a spiritual problem, if you will, that we have in the country, cynicism. in general. I mean, nobody believes anything really works in the highest way that was intended to work. That seems to be an even more interesting discussion right now. Quite frankly, there are a lot of wounded black people. Yes, there are. And the lower you are down the economic pole, the more resentment you have. And I think there are a lot of conflicted, educated black people. But come on, give me a break. We are not all one. We are individuals. I think we have to not forget that also. So when you interview a potential 12 black people, first of all, the thing the man did that I think is really unfortunate, he's assuming that all black people think the same way. And I know that he's a pragmatist, but I think that he is a victim of cynicism, just like we all are. That seems to be the bigger thing we could talk about here today. How can we have faith, again, in a system that can deliver justice to anybody?
Okay, but we'll have to do it in a minute because I have to take a break.
If you're planning to be in the Los Angeles area and would like free tickets to Politically Incorrect, call 213-852-2655.
Okay, we were talking about the controversy in the Philadelphia DA's office, and Bill, you were saying this is all very cynical, but if people actually act this way, isn't it really realistic and not cynical? And that's why they do it. Not because they're reacting cynicism, because they're acting the way people really
People
do.
act which way? What are we saying? If people act how? Like
Well,
he is
like
acting?
he said, one of the other things he said was avoid black women with a black defendant because they will not convict them. And that happened in the O.J. Simpson trial. One of the women was quoted leaving the jury box after the verdict saying, "We got to protect our own." Now, that's not cynicism, or maybe it is, but it's also realistic.
It's not justice either.
But what does justice have to do with the trial?
Yeah,
these
but
days?
It's like thinking.
He's right.
You know, it's the same thing. Isn't it true that there's recently been some allegations against Hertz and them reserving the right to give cars to who
Yep.
they want to give cars to?
Well, there was one dealership that was absolutely not
Right.
playing fair.
You know, it's the reality of the world we live in now. How do we negotiate difference? And what do we do with this huge reservoir of anger that we have at each other and the resentment? Quite frankly, I know a lot of black people who say, I would never give my heart to a white person. Because they say white people are conditioned when the chips are down to turn against you. Now, you can bang your head against the wall and trying to talk to people like that, but their experience has taught them something. The people who rent cars at Hertz, their experience has taught them something. I don't even really know what we can do here other than make weak jokes about it, but the fact is we're kind of crippled right now, aren't we? We're crippled because we are really in the grips of a real crisis about who are we as a country. For years, America thought it was white. America thought it was white. You know what I mean? Now, what color is it? What color is the criminal justice system? What are the values?
Green, I would say.
And I would agree with you.
But
Okay, but having
within
said that, what are we going to do with that?
Well, Bill, I think you make a very good point. We've become sort of a balkanized country with all these segments. It's not only black, there's a lot of other segments here, all of whom are looking out for their own.
Victor, could I say, have we become or have we always been? Because right now we're coming to grips with a lot of fantasies that we've had. The fact is that one of our, the fact is, have we ever really been a melting pot?
I think we have. I think we have, yes. I think if you go back to the initial days, and I'm not talking about the black-white issue now. I'm talking about the immigration from Germany, from, all Europeans.
But they were all discriminated against.
But they rose
For a
above
while,
it,
but
and
they rose above
eventually
it, yeah.
today, they're virtually disappeared. The problem today is that it seems to me that these groups have become more segmented, and the discrimination has been in both sides, what you view and what's actually done, much harsher. And I think the thing that we've got to do is really take a look at ourselves and say we're one society, and we've got to now treat each and every person the same. And it's hard to do because what enters into it is the economic factors, the jealousies, all of that, which transcend anything with race and religion. When you come down to it, it really comes down to economics. I think it's number one. It's what causes wars.
Because the reason
Yes.
why everybody else assimilated after a couple of generations is because they would walk into a place and they'd have a white face. But you can, but I don't think
You
that
can't
ever.
hide a black person.
No, Michael Jackson did a very good job. But outside of him, it is.
But I guess the question is, if what unites us now is desire for the green stuff, for money, is it possible that, well, someday Michael Jordan's going to run for president, right?
Oh, God,
he is a cash cow. He is handsome. He is lovable.
Yes.
Everyone loves him. So can you transcend color if you're rich enough?
The
got
Vietnamese
a-
Of
who work at
course,
the
that's
Nike
what
plant
OJ
don't love
did.
Michael Jordan.
Had enough money. He wasn't considered a black person anymore. He transcended OJ.
Well, look at Adam
He
Clayton
went
Powell.
beyond.
Yes.
Adam Clayton Powell was sought after by both parties
Yes.
to run. And it wasn't a question of color. It was a question of ability, respect, and lifestyle. Because I think he embodied to all Americans a stability that many of the political people that are in office now don't have.
Okay, I have to take a break. We'll come back. Okay, we got into a discussion about race relations in this country, so let's continue with that. And I wanted to ask this. Now, a generation ago in this country, I think maybe white people thought that there was a problem. They kind of sensed it under the surface, and there was separate drinking fountains, separate everything. They knew there was a big difference. Nowadays, we have a situation where that's sort of passed. We don't have separate places to eat and drink, and people work together, and I think that's caused a bigger problem because they think the problem is over. We work side by side, but it really isn't, because there really isn't any sort of communication. People don't socialize together. They don't, even if they live in the same neighborhoods, they don't really see each other. At work, you know, you can go to a cafeteria, you see the black people sitting at one table, it's like high school. The white people at another table. How do we end that? How do we actually get people to relate, or do we not try?
Vouchers.
You're right. We have to stop
Have a
and let-
voucher system. Give somebody a voucher. Give a white person a voucher. Get into a black club free. Give black people vouchers. Get into white clubs free. Go shopping in a black neighborhood. Get a discount on your groceries.
I hear a joke. I feel a joke coming. I feel a joke coming.
That is such a Republican response to that.
But it's all about money. It is. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all like it's.
Well,
if
it's
you make
not only
something-
money. I think it's also something that we got to change in the country, and that's education. I think the environment of people in their home life, the most critical period in anybody's life is the years 0 to 5.
Yeah.
And we as a country pay very little attention to that.
That's true.
And so when people finally get into the school system, and the school system, one of the great things that's happening are the charter schools, which are
But
coming
you know,
into being.
it was in the paper the other day, Victor, it's
Right.
resegregation.
Resegregation, right.
We're going back in time to before we segregated the schools.
It was said that parents, and I'm assuming they mean white and black parents, no longer care so much what color the child is sitting next to their child. They care more about, are the children learning to read, write, and are they
Right.
safe?
But that is yes.
Not that I think that is the most desirable. I believe that you need a dynamic society where people are constantly having to negotiate their differences. I believe in busing. I have lived in an interracial relationship all of my adult life. I insist on not being in anyone's ghetto, be it a gay ghetto, be it in a black ghetto. And it's not easy, because sometimes you, quite frankly, do feel lost. And there's nothing quite like going through most of your adult life being the only black at a dinner party, being the only black on a commission, what have you. You do feel a bit like you lose yourself, but you have to, more than anything, you have to come back to who I am and my values, what makes me who I am, and being black is one of those things. And I think that people like-minded, I'm assuming we're in a room full of liberals right here, are you making a concerted effort that you, in your child's upbringing, okay, maybe not in school, do you have black friends? Do you read
But
about...
isn't it easier to bus the teachers into an area rather than the children out of the area?
I never heard that solution. You're right.
But Eartha, it wasn't about the teaching so much. I thought it was about the social experience, as Victor is saying, the social experience of, at an early age, when we were children, we were taught white people smell funny. We were told that. And
Really?
Oh yeah. Well, and I'm sure many.
Well, Mickey Rourke, maybe, but I mean, I think as a general rule.
But I'm sure many white people are taught, and I know this is true, that black people smell, maybe not funny. White people, they're taught that black people smell. So until a child has that experience firsthand, what does it smell like? Wet, white hair. This was such a shock to me the first time I ever encountered it. But I had that experience. My parents were migrant workers, and they were so proud that I was going to go to school with white kids, and I was in kindergarten, my best friends were white kids, so I bonded my whole life. How many other kids in this country are now having that experience right now?
Bill, I'm sorry, I have to take a break. That was fascinating. All right, we just have time to say goodnight, and Catwoman, I just wanted to say this discussion of ours, you are an example of someone who bridges all people. Isn't that true? I mean,
and I think
white people love you, black people love you.
But you see, I don't think of myself as a color. I just think of myself as a person.
You are beyond. You are beyond any human limitation.
And when the world thinks that way.
You're watching ABC.